As Doug said, I'm DJ Hammingh with New Flyer, Regional Sales Manager for the Midwest. Is everyone in here before stuff got sent out familiar with New Flyer or not? Or
I think we said we were through that.
okay, so New Flyer, and we'll get there, but New Flyer, we are the largest transit bus manufacturer in North America. So there's companies out there we compete against with Gillig, Proterra, BYD, Eldorado, but we are the largest in North America. And on one of the slides coming up too, it will be, we just purchased Alexander Dennis as well. So this was new news to us in the last 2 weeks. They're a company that we had partnered with, but the best way to put it for anybody that's not really in the transit industry, people know us a lot of times by the bendy buses, right? The 60-footers, the new electric ones that are in Minneapolis Metro. But Alexander Dennis is known for the double-deck buses. So a lot of the double-deck that you'll see in Europe. And part of the reason that we went with them too was the overall, we'll now be in 12 countries, so outside of North America. I'd like to start with the video. I apologize because for volume, if this becomes an issue, I'll be saying a lot of the things that are on the video.
Did you know electric vehicles have been around for well over 100 years? With over 50 years experience manufacturing zero-emission buses and with the most electric buses on the road in America, New Flyer and MCI are advancing innovation with new, sustainable electric buses, building on our history with the latest technologies. And we're proud to be the only North American manufacturer to offer all three zero-emission buses. The time has come to make way for the future, and the future is electric. Did you know one battery electric bus offers up to $400,000 in fuel savings over the life of that bus? Electric buses also offer zero-emission solutions and maximize energy storage with lithium-ion batteries that are specifically designed to perform extended range trips. And optimizing batteries to increase range and to suit your needs is easy, no matter the terrain or the distance. Unlike traditional combustion engines, high-torque and high-efficiency electric motors have no exhaust after treatment, no oil, fewer hoses and fewer moving parts, which means less maintenance and downtime, and a smoother ride, with no shifting transmission or engine vibration. They are true zero-emission powerhouses that reduce greenhouse gases and noise pollution with super quiet and emission-free propulsion. Plus, battery electric buses use the most advanced and latest technology to increase efficiency. From electric propulsion and speed-sensitive power steering to real-time telematics and batteries positioned for the optimal weight distribution, we're streamlining operational efficiency while meeting and exceeding the highest of safety standards. Recharging battery electric buses is as easy as pulling up and connecting. Interoperable overhead and plug-in charging systems makes it easy for these buses to stay in peak operating condition day and night while preserving our environment and protecting our communities. At New Flyer and MCI, we're exploring new horizons, like offering infrastructure project management and optimized charging solutions for the high return on investment. It's time to move forward into a quieter, more sustainable future. We're changing the landscape of transit in a healthier way. Want to be part of it? Come along for the ride with New Flyer and MCI.
So that's kind of, I know it's hard to hear, but that's kind of our introduction, and then I'm going to take you through a few slides that's just a little background of New Flyer itself. So kind of here's what we're going to do. Like I said, I've condensed down what we're doing for transit properties in a 4 to 5 hour presentation to fit in for an hour for you guys today. So if it seems like I go through some of the slides in 10 seconds or 30 seconds, it's because I'm trying to get a lot of information in. At any point, if you have any questions, feel free to stop me and ask. I left the wrap up and discussion for the end, but I know that you guys also have things that you have to do at 7 o'clock. So I'll try to as much stay on task as we can and answer any questions along the way. So our corporate update, this is where we get in when I asked how many of you know about New Flyer. We're local. St. Cloud, Minnesota is one of our manufacturing facilities. Crookston, Minnesota, Anniston, Alabama, Winnipeg, Manitoba. All of these facilities do produce electric buses. They produce every propulsion that we have. So the one thing that's different than anybody else in our industry, we produce every single propulsion out of all our plants. There's only one plant with it, I say that, but electric trolleys are done out of Crookston. Every other propulsion from CNG, diesel hybrid, fuel cell, electric are all done at all plants. 88 years bus experience. We have over 6,000 employees across North America. That number does not reflect what I mentioned of the ADL purchase. So that number has just went up of what we have worldwide. Over 1,200 employees just in the state of Minnesota. 31 locations throughout North America. Now some people will say, well, you just only mentioned 4 production facilities, but those are strictly production facilities. The 31 locations are service centers, assembly, and some of our parts facilities as well that are feeding into the New Flyer owns that are feeding into the manufacturing facilities. We deliver 43% of the North American heavy duty transit buses and motor coaches in 2016. Support 51% of the heavy duty business. We're publicly traded, and if TSX, if you're not familiar with, that's Toronto, it's Canadian. But so we both, and we're obviously an international company. So we have a corporate headquarters that sits in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and then the U.S. is in St. Cloud, Minnesota. Here's just a little, I know that's hard to read from back here, but this gives manufacturing, our parts and service, our parts distribution centers. This is kind of where the 31 total comes up, spread across the United States and North America. Now I put this up there just because for you guys probably not as important, but we went through quite a few changes. We've had quite a few. If you're not familiar with the transit industry, once it grabs you, it kind of keeps you. So it's one of those industries that has a lot of people with 40 years, 50 years experience. And even our company is kind of experiencing right now that we have had a transition of a lot of people retiring and some new faces coming in. And the new faces I say coming in, they're people that have been in New Flyer. They've just worked their way up. So Chris Stoddard, who now is our president, is newer to that position this year in 2019. Jennifer McNeil, VP of Sales and Marketing, newer to that position. Joe Gibson is up there, who is my boss, but he has actually just announced his retirement as well. So he will be done in September, and one of us regional sales managers, Mark Fisher, stepping into that position. But and then Margaret Lewis she oversees the St. Cloud facility. So any of you, I know Doug's been on a tour there. Margaret is usually the one that will greet you and at least she heads the tour of those at that facility. New Flyer America, 4 transit bus manufacturing facilities. I kind of already jumped ahead and went over that. 8 component manufacturing facilities, 3,300 team members, and we are 75% US based. So the reason that number's up there when I'm presenting to customers, you have to have US content. So it has, right now I think we're at 71% that our buses have to be made in order for a transit property to be buying buses for us. Why is that important? Because we have a lot of competitors coming in from China, Holland, Canada. So the amount of US product on buses to meet Buy America requirements is very important. And then here's where we're going to kind of get into more what we're doing within Strong. We're, like I've said to some of you earlier, we're part of the Drive Electric Minnesota, or Minnesota Drive Electric. We're our commitment to the sustainability. This was something, the principles that started in 2017 for us, finalized in 2018. We are right now, from what I know, the only bus manufacturer that is doing the zero-emission future for renewable energy. I know some are kind of following up, getting into the livable cities and what they're doing for clean energy. Going into a little bit of the New Flyer zero emissions, I'm going to play this video. This one is a little bit longer, but I think...
How much do you know about bus technology? And what do you want to learn? Discover everything you want to know and more at the Vehicle Innovation Center, where exploring and advancing bus and coach technology is a reality. Get in on the action and lead the future of electric and autonomous bus technologies. The Vehicle Innovation Center is like nothing you've experienced before. You want to know more, and you're ready to experience the action. Lead the paradigm shift to electric transportation and a future where smart cities are powered by smart mobility. It's time to be a driving force for sustainability in your communities, to charge forward with hands-on learning experiences. From telematics to fleet monitoring, electric propulsion, lithium-ion battery technology, and electric bus essentials, you can do it all. Join us as we explore the future together. Now is your time to see the inner workings of the latest in transit technology. Don't just own the latest technology, get ahead of the curve and understand how it works in time for your next zero-emission procurement. Experience it for yourself. Join us and be part of the future of transportation. Drive your world forward at the Vehicle Innovation Center. It's bright ahead.
So the reason I played this first, and then we'll go to the next slide and I'll touch on a lot of these things. This was a $25 million investment that New Flyer made in Anniston, Alabama a year and a half ago to open to the public, to open to our customers, to open to board members, electric companies, committee members, to come through. And what we do is every quarter we run a 24 people come in and run it through a 2-day training. Now, that's not the only time. Almost every month we have a base of customers that are coming through, but sometimes it might just be one property versus where we could have a mixture of properties coming in on the designated times that we have. This center is the only of its kind across the world right now. And what it is here for is, number one, education on electric vehicles to both our customers, to government officials, to board members, all those things. And it has all our partners that have partnered with us. So we'll get to a slide here that's going to show our bus, and it really shows that the diesel to the diesel hybrid to the CNG to the electric really doesn't look that much different. We're using the same platform, we just are changing propulsions. And we're the only ones, Gillig now is coming out with it, but we're the only ones in the industry that have done that. We've made a good product for a lot of years. We didn't want to change that. We just wanted to offer another propulsion. And what this facility does is allow people to come in and not, even though it's a New Flyer facility, it's not specific to New Flyer. It's trying to educate people on such things as infrastructure. If they're thinking about it, how early to meet with their power company, implementation, what they have to do. It's just not buying an electric vehicle, but all the things they have to do leading up to that for their facility to manage the fleet. That's what our 2-day session will go through at this, and that's why we thought it was important to roll this out before we even started rolling electric buses out on the battery side. Like I said, all our partners are in here. So Siemens for our motor, Siemens for our chargers, ABB for our chargers, ChargePoint for our chargers, Exalt Energy for batteries, A123 who we've partnered with for batteries, and anybody else that is partnered with us as far as energy companies or anything like that, they will be at the facility. It's an evolving place, so it's constantly changing as battery technology changes, as chargers change. And then in the video you saw one of the pantographs coming down on an opportunity charger. That's at that facility as well. So people have the opportunity to see that. And you saw too, there's a 180-degree bus simulator that's an electric bus that allows drivers to come in and get that feel of how electric bus is a little bit different than a diesel or a hybrid or that type of vehicle. So our Xcelsior platform was introduced in 2010. This is what this will be a slide that I skimmed through pretty fast because I've already talked about it. Same platform, different propulsions. Anywhere from CNG, hybrid, and fuel cell. What does that mean in our world? Zero-emission bus benefits. This is what we've kind of calculated. So one thing I want to get to, because I usually get caught on this, and with this being on video and where this goes, and people that aren't here, I want to make sure I state this. The $400,000 in cost savings that's put up, remember that's 12-year life of a bus. Transit has to make a bus last 12 years minimum. Electric buses are looking to go 15 years if they can, just to get some ROI on them. And also that's an estimate that we've put up based on numbers on fuel prices at the time when we put the numbers out, and based on what we've averaged out with power companies of what they're charging of people we've already worked with. Now that can change per facility. So, but that number is an estimate that's up there. We feel like it's a pretty good number that we've been putting out and seeing with some of the properties. As you see here, what is this equivalent to over 5 years of operation? Planting 13,189 trees, 180 passenger vehicles off the road, or switching to 13,455 incandescent lamps to LEDs. So is this a big deal of putting these electric buses on the road? It is. And we talked earlier, and the one challenge we have is anything, like I said, north of the Mason-Dixon line, we have a little bit challenge with heat. Our biggest draw on batteries is heat. When you're running heat, if you're running an electric heater, it draws 33% on your batteries.
So winter.
Winter.
Cold winter.
Winter and cold. Anything below 40 degrees. To be honest with you, about the worst operating part for us is between 40 and 52 degrees. Because the diesel auxiliary heat that we're putting on these buses to complement inside, and this is where we talk, how do you still get zero emissions with this? Well, they're below 14 gallons of diesel on the bus, and they don't kick in until below 40 degrees. But that between 40 and 52, you're running nothing but electric heat, and it's running very hard in that range. You get up a little bit below or above 52 degrees, your electric heaters. But that's the draw that it typically is that we're seeing. And I'll show you some reports that's how our customers know and performing. There are 5 of them, like I've said, have been performing in New York across the Hudson, and they've been performing well, but it's some of the feedback that we've gotten from their reports as well. So this is what you look like.
When you say property, does that mean a bus?
When I say property, I mean the transit authorities, so like Metro Minneapolis or MVTA or St. Cloud Metro, those type of, anybody that's running a fleet of buses.
Okay.
So when I say properties, it refers to fleet. Yeah.
This is what what's the warranty you offer?
So that's kind of a loaded question because we offer a lot of different warranties depending what it's on. It's not the whole bus. So right when you get your vehicle, your car, it's the same. We offer on certain warranty on suspension. We offer a certain warranty on the motor. We say you won't touch that motor, the Siemens motor, for 600,000 miles. Usually the warranty question when people are asking me, it's batteries.
Right.
So we offer a 6-year standard warranty. We'll go up to 12-year warranty. One thing that's not in here, and I might as well mention now too, or it will be, but we offer a lot of options for batteries as well. So rapid charge, long range, and then kind of a hybrid in between rapid charge and long range. So when I say rapid charge, when you see that opportunity charger coming down, some properties are not worried about running 120 miles or 200 miles a day. They're just worried about having that opportunity charge and be able to take a charge in 10 minutes and keep the bus on the road, and every 30 minutes coming back and charging. So those batteries tend to have a longer life because you're staying between that 30-40% range and 85%. And so that degradation on them is not as much as what you would do on a long range bus, taking that from a 92, 93%, 94% full charge and running that down to 15.
And then do you refurbish batteries then?
We do not refurbish batteries. What happens is if you're turning a battery back into us, it goes back to our manufacturer, they recycle them, and then they replace your battery through us. So this is something that's unknown in this industry, and I think the industry as a whole right now, and ours is going to be really big, and we're actually working with the University of Michigan right now, trying to decide if we're going to partner with them or not, and what they're doing as far as one of their big initiatives is what are they doing to store energy? What are they doing with these recycling these batteries? Is it better just to take them back and recycle them? Is it better to get them another life?
Well,
and when I say
repurposing them for
right.
different
So,
uses.
and from our industry, because what they have set in our industry, once it hits 70%, the batteries aren't good anymore. Well, 70% to a lot of other people is very good. And that could run a lot of things, but it's a matter of where is the cost and does it benefit from the recycling side, or is it more value to recycling them, or is it more value to repurposing them? So those are things that we're working through right now, and there's a lot of people interested in them, but the push has been so fast that that's coming kind of after the fact instead of if somebody would have been there before. And going back to that, so yeah, you see these numbers, Like I said, these are estimated numbers. Total cost savings over the 12-year life of a bus, $525,000. The maintenance one, we're pretty much dead on, or pretty close to knowing that that's what that's going to be. But still, over a 12-year life, there's a lot of things that can happen.
So for the battery to get down to 70%, how long would that take? Is it a 3-year time frame, 2 years?
We're saying right now, we warranty 6 standard, we'll go 12 and say it won't even get below 70% at 12.
Okay.
But that is the biggest unknown in our industry with every manufacturer, because there's not been a battery electric bus that's ran 12 years yet. Nobody has one. So it's an unknown. We're going off what our battery suppliers are telling us. We're going off what we're seeing on the ones that have been out for 2-3 years and what they're doing and how they're performing. But battery technology has already changed since then. And you guys, the best comparable thing I can, because we're running the same batteries, pretty much the same concept of your cell phones, is look at your cell phones, right? None of us are going to win this game battling against each other on batteries, because each manufacturer is going to catch up with the other one. Nobody's going to leap ahead past 6 months of being ahead somebody else. And you'll see our packs are a little different in how they do. We're not the Teslas of the world that are cylinder or anything like this. You'll see the pouch concept when we get up there. So some of these I might start zipping through pretty fast so that I can get into the batteries and stuff like this. 50-year zero-emission buses. We have the 3 types that I mentioned: all battery electric, trolley, fuel cell. So some people say, we have more electric buses out than anybody else in North America. And some people say, well, how do you do that? Battery electric's fairly the trolley. So some people will say, well, are you fudging the numbers a little bit? We're not. In all honesty, we've been running electric buses for a long time with trolley buses. But the battery electric is new, and this is kind of our roadmap of where we are and what's taken us here to this point from, like I said, in 1993 having electric trolleys in San Francisco. The natural gas, I'm glad this is here just to remind me. So here's the shift that we're seeing in our industry. Right now, if you come to our plant and said, DJ, what are you producing the most of? We made the shift from diesel to we're 60% in our plant CNG right now. And that shift now is starting to switch to battery electric. But it's new, right? These are new things that are going through all 4 of our plants. And we see that shift happening faster than what it went from diesel to CNG. It will be faster CNG to electric. And there'll still be CNG. And then here is the next. So all of our buses, you have to go through this Altoona testing, and being tested that's the biggest thing for our customers. So make sure they've went through that test, have been certified, and it's about the roughest test that you can go on a bus. So anywhere from our fuel cell, battery electrics, CNGs have all been through this process at this point. This is our fuel cell. So this is our option to fleets. One thing that fleets are worried about when you're getting out in California and even St. Louis, I was just in a meeting with them that talked about this. Their goal is to go 100% electric. Well, going 100% electric in St. Louis with 400 to 500 buses can be a challenge of what that does to the grid, especially with running a rail system. So their answer is right here, to mix, to go fuel cell, hybrid, electric, and electric. And fuel cell is actually gaining a lot of ground with the hydrogen, because it also offers the option of not having to have the diesel auxiliary heat and not carrying as many batteries. So we are challenged, just like cars are challenged, with weight. So right now we are about maxed out of what we can put. You'll see batteries on the bus when I come up to that slide, but we're challenged with weight. A lot of people ask us about inductive charging. Well, can you do it? The technology's out there. It's not great right now for us on inductive charging, but it adds another 900 pounds to our buses if we put a 900-pound plate on the bottom of it. So that presents a challenge. We'd rather have the batteries than have inductive charging. And plus, it's just, right now it's still in the industry, I think, a little bit more in the test than proven. Right here is where New Flyer has either delivered or underway of zero-emission buses that have been deployed.
It does all right in the mountains?
It does. We have 2 different types of motors. So for instance, even Duluth with their hilly, San Francisco has been a prime example. We have a different type of motor that has a grade motor, what we call. This electric motor actually performs better than what the diesel does going uphill. So our electric motors, Minneapolis Metros, we're still kind of working through a little things with them right now, but it's an acceleration thing. We've actually had to dial ours back.
Acceleration?
Yes, because they want them to perform like the diesels, and they don't want their drivers to be heavy on the gas, because the electric has the capability to take off a lot faster, has the capability to get up those grades. So it won't affect, in Minneapolis we don't have too many grades to worry about, but those are challenges that we're dealing with right now in the electric world, just like we're dealing with how quiet it is, right? So we have on college campuses, one of the things that started to, and the Vehicle Innovation Center that I put up there earlier, the one thing that center is doing too that I didn't touch on is autonomous vehicles. So we have a goal over the next 12 years to produce an autonomous vehicle, fully driverless vehicle. In that time frame, we're doing things to, like the cars are of driver's assistance right now. So going through phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 on helping on the autonomy side, but we're having to do that too because electric has forced it because of how quiet it is. College campuses, kids have headphones in, they go to step out in front of a bus before, because they can't hear it.
They do that with my Prius.
So now we're having to do things like the bus is turning left, the bus is turning right, the bus is moving, and enunciate it on the outside because of how quiet it is. And then now I'm going to dive into a little bit how it works. So we have 3 different vehicles, the 35-foot, 40-foot, and 60-foot. As I mentioned earlier, we have long range and rapid charge. Minneapolis Metro, the ones you'll see running on the C line that we rolled out, I think it was a week ago that we did the ribbon cutting, they're a hybrid. So they're kind of a mix between the rapid charge and the long range. They have 466 kilowatts on the bus, so they'll run for 120 to 200 miles, depending on weather. So anybody here, you guys are all going to want to ask me range because my customers do the same thing, and I'm always going to tell you it depends. It depends on weather, it depends on driver. Those are the 2 biggest factors. How much are we running that heat? Heat draws way more than air conditioning does. And then how the driver's driving it. Are they putting regeneration back into the bus and the batteries? So, because we have a very good regen system as long as it can be used. Now, New York City is our worst conditions. New York City running across the Hudson, Times Square, it averages 3 miles an hour. It makes more stops than any other route that we have in our system. And it has the same weather conditions that we have here, that I have in Michigan, so they're running a lot of heat. So the worst conditions possible, they're not generating any regen in New York.
What was that ribbon cutting you said you had here?
So it was for the C line, the open of the C line, the BRT line.
C line, where's that?
So that's a BRT line for Metro Minneapolis.
What's a BRT? I'm sorry.
Bus rapid transit. So that's where they have a dedicated line, or they're doing things right now like with signals and stuff where, for instance, if a signal's green and getting ready to turn yellow, it'll have a system on it that will keep that light green to keep that bus moving until it gets through and then flip into yellow. So they're doing a lot of things to moving people and moving a lot of people in a rapid way. So all your big cities, Indianapolis, Minneapolis, San Francisco, LA, New York are all looking at BRT systems are big systems for the bigger 60 foot.
Street lights?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
And that's the letter C.
C line, yep, C line, yep. So the C line, some properties have done it differently. I think they were very smart and they did 6 diesel buses and 8 electric buses to start that line. Their goal is to pull them diesel buses and have that a fully electric line. But in order to roll out, and you know, nothing rolls out perfect. The one thing that I will say, Doug's been through our plant. When you're working with bus manufacturers, no matter who you're with, we're not the automotive industry. You know, we're making 4,000, 5,000 buses a year. They're made by hand. So sometimes there are mistakes, there's errors that you have to go through and work through, and it's not robots doing it and, you know, 20,000 cars coming out a week. Oops. So here gives you a little bit, like I told you, nothing really changes. We go, our XD that's our diesel version. The XDE is the diesel hybrid where you can start seeing some battery stuff come in. And then our XE40, those are all batteries on the top of it. And a lot of people will ask, why do we do batteries on the top? And some We have a competitor that does them between the wheel wells low. Well, anything that you know about a bus is this is your weakest axle. The more you come forward with batteries and that weight, the more challenge you have. So we did everything we've done in placement of the batteries is keeping that weight distribution over those rear axles as much as we can. And that's partly so that we can have a full bus, not only seated, but standing passengers. And this gives a little bit of a better layout of how our batteries look. So you'll have two batteries in the rear that take up where the engine was, the diesel motor or the hybrids, and then you'll have battery packs on the top, traction motor, auxiliary system, and cooling system. I'm not gonna, right here's where I usually want to jump into everything about the batteries and cooling system, but I'm gonna wait until I get there.
We want to see how it plugs in.
CCS1 connection, you'll see it. We showed a little bit on that video. We both have rapid charge, but the same for your Chevy Volt or Nissan Leaf, it's the same connector.
But the thing on top, doesn't the water get in there and stuff?
No,
Lets
it's-
the snow build up?
So there's the rails on the bus are protected, heat protected, so they never freeze up. So there's 2 charge rails on the top of the bus.
Oh, they're rails.
Yep, they're rails. So see these right here? They're just thin little rails, and they offer enough room that the bus from here to here can pull up, and there'll be a line on the curb usually or somewhere marked for them so the driver knows where to stop, and then the rails come down that are the opposite of that, crossing over them to marry up and make a charge.
All right.
And those are used for our rapid charging. So here's a little bit that shows batteries in the back. You asked about connection. So right here is the CCS1 type J1772 connector. Same as what you have on your vehicles. Now, could we pull up to one of your chargers that's sitting for a Nissan Leaf or something like that and plug our bus in? No, obviously we couldn't do that. But what New Flyer was a big part of when all this was coming is making sure, and it said it in one of the videos, but it was pretty fast, of making sure that we're interoperable. We didn't want to be proprietary on our charging, and there's one of our competitors out there who have tried this and they're moving towards, we want, if our customers buy a bus, they can try 5 of these guys, 5 of this one, and 5 of this one until they decide what one they like, and not have to buy different charging systems.
But you don't work with other companies. All your company buses have different charging systems than a different company.
We partnered with ChargePoint, Siemens, and ABB. The other companies can use any of those. There's only a few other options out there. I think there might be only 5 total options right now for charging. So generally we're hitting, but whether they use Wave Technologies or trying to think who the other guy is, they still are looking to use these connectors. So no matter what charger it is, we're a bus manufacturer. We want to help our customers with the infrastructure side and the chargers, but we don't want to be making them and producing them. We're not in that business, so that's why we're partnering up with who we feel are the best in the industry right now. This gives a little bit more detail with the tops off the cabinets of what the battery layouts look like. And when I get to the exalt portion, it'll show you even the pouch cells open, so you'll have a better idea how each of these are water cooled. There's battery disconnects for them. There's units that control how they're performing. But one of the biggest things I just said is water cooled. So the biggest thing we know for longevity of batteries, you asked us earlier about how, is keeping them at between 69 and 72 degrees. So it doesn't matter if it drops down to 40 below or it gets to be 105, we're gonna always keep those batteries at that temperature. And we have a system that does it. And when I say water cooled, it's not a plate that runs underneath them and it's just through the plate. The water cooling system runs through each cell. So when we get to the pouch cells, I'll show you how the water system runs through each of them. And this is just one of the rear components that goes in the engine. It shows it opened up a little bit. Now some of this stuff, this is getting into the weeds a little bit, but I just wanted to show you some of the things that we're doing. So on our 60-foot, we are the only ones in the industry that are doing 3 motors. So, well, I shouldn't say that. We have a competitor now that's doing that as well. But we have a drive motor that's in the rear, so that PEM motor in the axle. And then in the middle one, which a lot of people call the bendy part, there's individual motors on each wheel. And what that gives you basically is an all-wheel drive vehicle. Helps a lot, for instance, Minnesota dealing with ice, snow, same things we deal with in Michigan. And then you asked too about motors. So this is hilly areas, right? We have an advantage of having what we call a high-grade motor from Siemens that they offer to us that allows us to scale for the high power density and energy consumption. So traction motors right here are the two that are, this is getting into a lot of detail on how they're rated as torque, but this is a grade. So standard is a 12.5. When you're dealing with people like San Francisco, Duluth, things like that, they're going to the 19% grade motor.
DJ, just maybe mention it, but like, just so people kind of know, the Minneapolis buses are the 60-footers.
Yes.
And they're the articulated units.
Yes.
And they have dual traction, right?
They do. They have a motor on each center wheel, and then they have the drive motor in the back. That's all Siemens. Siemens in the back and ZF on the drive axles. So we talked a little bit about weight distribution and batteries and the challenges they have. Just like they have challenges on our automobiles, trucks, everything. This shows you a little bit diesel fuel tank, right, compared to putting our battery packs on and where that weight comes in. And what does that mean to us? Well, we have to be very conscientious of how that weight is distributed so that we can still maximize for our customers of where passengers are. We don't want to lose passengers because we're adding batteries. And so this is what we kind of look at of what we can put on glider with long range batteries and how many passengers are figuring at 150 pounds per passenger. This is what we do in comparison to our competitors right now. So when you're running a transit property, this is what you don't want. You don't want people left standing because they can't get on the bus because you have a load capacity issue.
So where are your batteries? What are the sources of batteries?
Sources meaning where are they located, or
Who makes them?
I'll get to that. You're ahead of the game, but I'm close. And then this is the one that I just said earlier. Everybody wants to ask this. This all depends, right? It depends. You guys drive. If you drive electric vehicles, you drive hybrid vehicles. You know it depends on how hard you drive it. If you're heavy on the gas, how much heat you're using. But this is typically where we're running mile range right now. Anywhere from 70 to 225, depending what type of battery pack you're putting on it for a 35 to 40 footers, and anywhere from 80 to 220 range on our 60 footers.
So how many miles does the bus drive in a day?
It depends. Again, it depends. It depends what route they're on. It depends. I mean, right now, St. Louis, I'm getting ready to do 16 60-foot buses for them. They went 257 miles out of that bus. So the one thing I want you to understand, that's on the battery pack itself. Now, Minneapolis Metro, their C-Line, and St. Louis, what they'll do, they're doing what we call that opportunity charging, where the overhead, because they have a spot where passengers are getting on at a transfer station where it sits down for 15 minutes. Drivers get their breaks. That pantograph can come down. Let's say that bus has been out and made 3 trips, and then maybe it's down to 80%. When that pantograph comes down and puts that charge on for 10 to 12 minutes, it will bring that bus back up almost a full charge. So they're constantly topping off when using an opportunity. So then this really doesn't become an issue, because this 220 all of a sudden turns into Minneapolis Metro running their buses for 16 hours a day. Mileage isn't an issue. It becomes an issue if they're only trying to depot charge. And one example I can give is Indigo, Indianapolis BRT line for them, which they call their red line. They bought a competitor's bus that were promised 257 miles. And it was very important to them that they had that because they didn't want to go with the opportunity charging. And what happened was they haven't hit the 257 miles yet, and they don't have opportunity chargers. So now they're having to find an alternative what to do because that line has to function. So they're having to find things that they're doing. So here's the question you asked. Batteries. Exalt Energy is one of our battery manufacturers. A123 is too, but they're not doing as much with us. We always partner with two because we want a good backup. But Xalt has launched themselves ahead, and who's pretty much on all of our buses right now. And they're out of Midland, Michigan. We are using the only U.S. battery manufacturer out of anybody. Some will try to say they're using a U.S. battery manufacturer, they're using a U.S. assembler, which means their pouches are still coming from overseas. Could be from Europe, could be from China, wherever it's coming from. But Midland, Michigan even makes their own cell pouch. They have an anode and a cathode plant where all those come together and your batteries are formed. I've been through it. I live in Michigan, so it's been close enough to me. State-of-the-art facility. If you want to see something interesting ever, pull up battery manufacturing and look at some of the plants in China. This is the cleanest battery manufacturing plant I've ever seen. It's like going into a pharmaceutical manufacturer. It's that clean, 95% robotic. So when on here they put 250 employees, it's 250 employees that don't really touch anything. They're there monitoring what's going on. But great state-of-the-art facility. Freudenberg is on here, and the reason that they're on here is they had partnered and took 53% ownership of Xalt. So right now they're, and why that's important is because they're worldwide. And some of the things that they're doing to help Xalt in the marine industry, in rail, and in truck.
Are they in charge of putting the wire through the battery?
They are. They run the system. So this system that you see right here, this is the management system. Here's the battery pack itself. Here's the management that takes on the water. Water will give us feedback, keeps the batteries cool. And then this is the pouch itself. So this is an anode cathode tab on top, and it's a pouch system that's layered through here. These pouches are just layered in that battery pack.
Is it more than just water to keep it from freezing?
No. The water's brought up or heated or cooled depending on what's needed at that time.
Just turn off the thing?
No. If it were to be turned, let's say somebody was storing outside. Let's say Minnesota was storing outside for some reason, which I don't think there are any garages in North that store outside, but let's say they did. Stored outside, bus was off, battery pack turned off. All they would have to do is turn the auxiliary on and bring that up to temperature before they turned it all the way on. So they would have to give it time to work and warm up, and then before they turned it completely on to run the bus.
Well, in the loop or something, last winter it was -23 Fahrenheit here. If you stored, and you can imagine it's a lot of mass and so forth, but if you store for very long, they'd freeze, and they'd break water lines, and you couldn't just warm it up with some kind of warm-up cycle.
Well, you can. It's a heated system. It's no different than if your house was super cold and let's say you left your house and you wanted to heat up the pipes, right? Like it's a slow process of getting that through. You're not going to go in and flood water through, or if there's water that was frozen in the pipes, you got to bring that up to temperature first. That's what this whole system would do, is bring it up to system.
People don't even do it. They just go use somebody else's toilet for 10 days and it freezes.
Yeah. So this whole system is set up to be on a cycle where those things don't happen. So right now we're not in Duluth. Unfortunately, they did not buy our buses this go around, but we've been in Winnipeg, Manitoba, which is for over 4 years, and not had one battery freeze up there. And Winnipeg gets just as cold, if not colder, than Duluth.
Do you do school buses also?
We do not. Not yet.
What was that question?
If we do school buses. So I'm down to 15 minutes, and I told Doug I wouldn't run over, so some of this may go fast. This one. So as I said, truck and bus, marine, rail, mobile machinery is what Xalt is in. If you ever, for some reason, are in northern Michigan and want to tour a cool facility, this is a very, very cool manufacturing plant to go through. They're doing some great things. Their sales system are all over the major global areas. It shows where packs are made and cells. And so when I said people aren't touching it, it's kind of hard to see in this picture, but this is basically the employees of what this They stand and observe in their quality control, but it's a completely robotic system because one of your biggest things and one of the reasons we selected Xalt Energy for batteries is contaminants. Contaminants is a big, along with your weather and how you condition your batteries, but right from the start of your manufacturer, is any type of contaminants can affect the long life of your battery. And we wanted somebody that's close by, that if our customers want to go visit, they don't have to fly to China or they don't have to fly overseas. They can go to Midland, Michigan and see what's happening with their battery packs. They can sit down with people in Midland, Michigan and be able to discuss what's going on and make plans for the future. Because everybody right now, as long as this range is okay right now starting, but everybody wants to know where we are going to be 3, 5, 10 years from now on range.
So do we see improvements in batteries coming up?
We've seen the most drastic improvements that we've seen so far. We will be like the cell phone industry now. As you see improvements, it will be 15 miles, 20 miles. Here, you're never going to see a 50-mile or 100-mile leap now, because unless there all of a sudden becomes a chemistry out there that is no one's aware of right now, that they can find a way to get more energy and lighten the battery packs up. But as you can see right now, this is what a pouch looks like from the side. It's thin, and then they make up into this pack that then goes into this. It doesn't seem like a lot, but it ends up being a lot of weight by the time you're putting, that's a pack, and then there's 7 strings of those to make up one whole unit, and we're trying to put 4 to 6 on a bus of units.
Is the demand for the batteries, like for that company, is it high enough or like running 24 hours a day kind of thing? Or?
They're not running 24 hours a day, and but the demand is high. The marine industry and what's going on with truck and stuff right now, it just keeps increasing for them. So we like that with what our demand is. We know that right now we're the only ones that have an exclusivity with Xalt as far as the bus transit, but it will open up to others as well as they go forward. We know that's going to happen. And that's good for us, right? We all share the Cummins motor right now on the diesel side and on the CNG side. There's only one engine manufacturer for all of transit. So there are a few guys have tried to bounce into it back in the day of the GMs and Detroit diesel and that stuff, but it didn't last all that long. We're different than Europe and China as far as the United States and North America produces 5,000 to 6,000 new buses a year. That's it. You're talking about one city for that in China as far as public transportation. Just North America is different. It's a different concept, but it is changing with the smart cities and what's going on of people using public transportation more and more. It's almost like we're behind the games a little bit, but we're catching up. And with what we're doing with battery electric, just here in Minneapolis alone, Minneapolis has looked at adding a lot more light rail. These BRT lines that we talked about are replacing the light rail because they're cheaper and more efficient. Yeah. So this is a little bit of energy density, and with where we are, I won't get into this one too much. There's how whole cell pack, and that's what you asked about the cooling and everything. So this is how it runs through each pouch to make sure that stays cool or heated up, whichever you need. So they've tested under the worst conditions. They show some examples here of what they've done of putting them under fire tests, thermal shock, chemical load. They've done everything they can possibly do to these batteries to make sure they're going to perform the way that we need them to perform. And one of the coolest things that I want to get to going forward is, and I might skip this video. If we have time, I'll go back to it. Just because. Okay, then let's just play this, but then when we get into some of the durability of why it was important to us to choose a manufacturer, number one, I already said, for being local to us, or what we consider local being in the United States, but as far as durability and what our customer expectations are from us.
When you say water cooled, is it truly water or is it antifreeze? Or?
No, it's water.
It is water.
It is.
Electricity. It powers everything, including our buses. But not all electric buses are alike. From safety to maintenance and reliability, the electric bus market varies considerably. So what makes a good electric bus? Do you know what features your electric bus should and shouldn't have? Make sure you're choosing the right one with this list of electric bus must-haves. New Flyer and MCI are industry leaders with over 7,300 buses powered by electric motors and batteries operating throughout North America. Our established support system, extensive service network, and infrastructure project management team have the resources to make fleet electrification your reality. Every city and region is unique, and buses should reflect this. Specializing in custom, compatible design, New Flyer builds on the proven Xcelsior platform to easily transition to electric propulsion while meeting your needs. We haven't reinvented the wheel, just how it's rolled. Whether your bus needs to climb steep hills, maneuver icy conditions, or navigate high-density urban environments safely, New Flyer buses have already been there. The zero-emission battery electric Xcelsior Charge is no different. Weight distribution and maximizing passenger capacity is a balancing act that we've perfected over 50 years of building zero-emission buses with the best team in the industry. Keeping battery accessibility, passenger safety, and exposure to the elements top of mind, New Flyer has transformed the traditional electric bus using the latest battery technology and practices, like placing the batteries for ideal weight balance. With liquid cooling for superior performance, our American-made batteries have the energy density and lifespan you can rely on. And optimized for range and real-world estimates, New Flyer Connect technology has turned route history into real-time performance analytics, providing on-demand insight for transit authorities. Plus, we comply with interoperable charging systems using standard, certified equipment widely available from many suppliers. You want electric buses that are predictable, reliable, cost-effective, and long-lasting. Technology that can go the distance. And now, you can have it all. The electric bus is here to stay. Are you using the best bus for your community? Get on board with New Flyer and MCI.
So that kind of touched on some of the things that I've already talked about with the Connect, with the battery. And Doug, going back, it is more than just water. There's an antifreeze type. It's not antifreeze, but it's a different, to keep it from, to keep lines from freezing.
If one
through
got
there.
stranded somehow,
Yes.
you know, you wouldn't want to.
Yeah.
Where do you exhaust the heat? Just, you must have a heat exchanger somewhere, so it's not the top.
Yeah, so some of those fans, so everything when I showed that bus on top, they weren't all battery packs. There's a Thermo King unit up there that comes through the top. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Why would like Metro Transit pick an electric bus versus a diesel bus? How would it figure out where to put the electric one?
You mean how did it figure out what route to put it on?
Yeah, exactly.
So part of it was this was a new line opening up. So a new service line. So they thought it created a great opportunity. I don't know if you guys just saw, there was a huge article out, Met Council, I think it came out 3 days ago, about the funding and how much funding is coming available to not just Metro, but anybody that falls under the Met Council funding, so of getting electric vehicles. So MVTA, there's a couple other properties that are under there that fall under Met Council that will be, the funding that's come through will be a push for these BRT lines and these electric lines.
Is the opportunity charging package quite expensive or is it standard?
It is. So depot charger, let's say just rough cost could be $150,000, where opportunity charge could be $1 million.
Can you add it later?
What's that?
Can you add it later?
You can. Yeah, you can add it anytime. Go
Is
ahead.
the C line the one that connects the green line with the blue line?
That I don't know.
That's the A line. Oh,
It-
that's the A line. Okay, where does the C line go? Goes up towards
To
Austin.
North Minneapolis.
Oh, North Minneapolis, okay.
If you took the three variants of buses, you have a diesel, battery electric, and a fuel cell. Just roughly, what's the difference in pricing? What kind of premium do you pay for the battery electric versus the fuel cell?
Fuel cell's most expensive, about a couple $100,000 right now. because it's the newest technology over, and hydrogen people are still a little bit, how do we bring that into the system? How do we fuel? Do we tank it in? Those type of things. So it all depends on length. So let's just take a 60-footer. Let's take Minneapolis Metros it can be anywhere from 1.1 to a 1.3 million project for a 60-foot electric. That would take you up to about 1.5 for fuel cell. It all depends on things you add onto the bus or take off. 40-foot's going to be more around the 90 or 900,000 for electric. That's all electric. So, and fuel cells about 200, 150,000, 200 more above that. You're going down to diesel 60-footer. You're probably around 550, 600. At a 40-foot, you're probably around 450, 470, somewhere in there. Now we're close on time, and I won't go through this too fast, but you saw some of this. So when you saw the buses driving around with a map, that's part of our Connect 360. Our Connect 360 is technology. It goes along with the smart cities, but for instance, right now I could pull New York up. It's a Wi-Fi that's built into our bus. Anything that goes through our Parker-Vansco system telematics will give me a reading to tell me what that bus is doing. So I can pull the New York bus up right now. I can tell you how much heat they use or how much air conditioning they use, how much that drew on the battery. I can tell you how good the driver was driving, how much that drew on the battery. I can tell you how much regeneration it put back into the bus. Each bus I can do that for. Each bus I can update, do updates via Wi-Fi, everything that's part of our Connect 360 program. I was thinking about pulling this out and not putting this in for the presentation here because it's more to my customer base, but I want you guys to know what's going on with smart cities. I want you to know what's going on with how we're helping, because this helps with our energy consumption. It helps us with our properties of training these drivers of how to drive them more in a proper way, and it's also getting through to our properties. Look, you can't, right now these are not necessarily a one-for-one exchange. You can't go in and take a diesel bus off the road and expect an electric bus to do exactly what that diesel bus was going to do. It just, depending on mileage and range, it's just not going to work, and you can't necessarily keep your same route. So I'm having this talk with a lot of properties of going, look, you want your drivers to drive that bus differently so they get the regen and they keep the energy going back into the bus, but has anybody on the administration side changed the route, or had they changed the timing? Right? So if somebody's used to getting that bus at 6:55 to get to work by 7:30 a.m., have they changed the route by 2 minutes just to allow the driver not to be heavy on the gas and heavy on the brake and allowing the regeneration to kick in? Because if they haven't changed the route at all, just with timing, they could possibly still have the driver driving it the same way because he's worried about hitting his time points. So these are all discussions we have to have with properties when we go in. So like I said, our Connect 360 is performance analytics dashboard. One of the best things to do is it also is GPS, so location and average speeds it can give, HVAC energy consumptions. This is probably the best thing to show you. Everything that we showed on the first 2 pages is all right here, and this is what our customers can pull and we can pull. So what it will do, right here is your energy consumption. So this red is the heat. So, and this is your HV accessories, your motor. It shows how much the motor is doing. It'll show your range and distance, what you have left, duration, state of charge, and odometer miles. It'll tell you when it started, when it went out, end of time, what the duration of the time it was out. Basically, we can feed any information off right here.
A lot of this to me is telematics, okay, which is in all kinds of fleets. The thing I was wondering, is the Minneapolis thing set up where a person can log in and say, okay, that bus will be here in 2 minutes? Is it that advanced yet or not?
Not from our system, but they have systems that I don't know if they're using them or not, but transit as a whole has a capability if they're bringing those systems on to do that.
And they can use the same display system that's in the bus? Yes.
So part of have you guys heard the Smart Cities initiatives? You guys, this group should know that. Part of the Smart Cities is going along that, right? So that's our whole thing when we talk about BRT routes with the lights and all that. That same feedback is available and can be there. It's a matter if properties are utilizing it or not. But it's not something that goes through necessarily our Connect 360, but.
Because that just seems like that would encourage so many more people to use transit, if you had that kind of thing.
An example, I mean, I don't want to speak for any of the properties, but where we see things going, and when I'm in some of these smart city meetings and when we go to our big APTA events that are talking about how buses and what properties are doing, is kind of on a smaller scale of what you see these little scooters where you got the app on your phone and you can find out where they are and how much energy they have and all this. The same thing's going to be here, right? You can find out where my bus is, when is it going to be there. But we also know not everybody has necessarily smartphone capability and those type of things too. So you have to tailor to everyone. And here's kind of what we have. So our Connect for our customers, our transit people they have a mobile app. They can get warnings on their phones. So from a maintenance side, if they have their top 10 error codes, their maintenance guys can have it go to their email, to their text message of getting a code.
How much does one of these weigh compared to a diesel?
They're about 3,500 pounds more, depending. That depends on how many packs somebody's putting on. So if you're doing a rapid charge that we talked about earlier, it's less battery packs. So then that weight comes down. If you're maximizing the amount of battery packs, you're putting about 3,500 more pounds on. And then this is the last slide I have. I'm close on time, so I think we can get through it. This goes into our infrastructure side. So New Flyer, this year in 2019, we had a couple guys on our infrastructure side that were just helping our properties along if they needed to work with their contractors and stuff. And we decided this is actually a whole nother business opportunity. It's not only an opportunity, but it puts us in a good spot with our customers of being able to offer an infrastructure team. So in 2019, we hired 7 additional people. We started a whole another subgroup, and now we have an infrastructure team that will go in and meet with these properties ahead of time before they bring electric buses in. They'll do site visits. For instance, July 9th, I'm going out with our infrastructure team in St. Louis because in October of 2020, they'll be running 16 electric buses on a BRT line, but we're going out for the site visit first to see where they will put these opportunity charges, where they're doing the depot charges. We're meeting with their power company to see what type of power are they bringing in. Are they bringing in enough power? So we're going through all those things, and that's what our team does, and it's a team of engineers, it's a team of construction people that will go through and meet with a property to see what they want. It can be an infrastructure implementation where they're limited on space, so they can't put anything inside the facility because the buses are parked so tight, so they have to have the charging cabinets and everything outside, and they'll run inside with what like an air hose drop cord that they can just plug in that way, so nothing's along the ground. The one thing that's nice about electric and electric infrastructures are we don't have to chew up as much cement. So usually we're pouring a pad for cabinets to sit on. You can run your conduit through that. If you know anything about transit properties, they don't want to be tearing up cement because a lot of them are 40 years old, 80 years old. You start digging up cement and you get into soil samples and all that stuff, and all of a sudden it puts a project on hold real quick. We talked about charging depot. That's your plug right there, right? Most of you, if you've driven a hybrid or electric or anything, you've seen that's the CCS one or the CSS one connection. And then from the infrastructure side, we offer the 2 options that you've seen: depot charging and overhead rapid charging. Overhead rapid can go anywhere from 300 kilowatts to up to 450 kilowatts. We generally on depot charging are running a 150 kilowatt charger. And the reason I say 150 kilowatt charger, when we talk about our max batteries, that we all know we don't charge a battery all the way to full. You don't charge to 100%, and the reason that you don't do that is because we have to leave room for regen. And to make that battery last as long as we can without degradation is to keep it at optimal performance, and then we don't run it down to 0. So generally we're having properties pull in between right around 15% left. So they have that 94 to 15% run time, so that affects their range. And then their charge is about what you're seeing here, 3.6 hours to take it if they were down at 15% to bring it up to full charge on our maximum batteries that would be on. Now if they're running opportunity charge, they're topping off So Minneapolis's buses, when they come back in, they could be coming in with 60% charge. It may only take them an hour and a half to charge, up to full charge.
So you said that a rapid charger was $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
How much does the bus cost then?
But right around the same.
So you're
Or more.
paying as much for the charger as you're paying for the bus?
Currently, right now, yes. We see these things coming down as this becomes more and more, people are buying more and more. Because obviously you're going to get more out there, so they'll start producing more, parts will come down. It's just a newer thing right now, the prices are high on.
Is that running all the wire and getting the electric grid up to pushing all that out? Like costs that much money?
So that doesn't include all the transformers, switchgear, infrastructure. It doesn't include, that's your charger and your bus price alone. It doesn't include the infrastructure price.
So
It's
what's
an,
it cost to get a bus?
it kind of depends on your construction and stuff. It depends what you have set up. It depends what your power company has available, bringing new transformers in. A switchgear, for instance, a switchgear off that transformer could be anywhere from $10,000 to $12,000 additional on top of whatever construction you have come in. Now, you ask that, and it all sounds like a lot of money, and it is a lot of money. But to put in a CNG infrastructure would be just as much, if not more. And you're digging up concrete. You're not using a zero-emission type thing, right? So you're challenged with all those type of things. And the electric, when I say that opportunity charger, so Minneapolis Metro got 2, but they can charge all day long. They can charge up as many buses as they want, as long as they're coming through and taking a 10-minute charge. So it's not like that's isolated to one bus. So it's not, one depot charger or one opportunity charger for that. So, and I know I'm over, Doug, so.
He's been wanting to ask a question. Wait.
Oh.
We got time for a few minutes.
Okay, and we're at the end of this now too, but this shows a little bit just, so this was, when I talk about St. Louis, this is what we put together. When we're on the infrastructure side, our team goes out and assesses what they're doing route-wise, right? So we send out a ton of questions. What's your route? How many stops are there? What's the average temperature? All those things, and we took this in their route, and then we will come up with a plan for them. And then we present this to them, and then that's how we present what type of battery pack they should be based on what they're trying to get from their route. So see, that had their average speed in there, average passenger load. That's all information we need in order to make sure that we're giving somebody the best battery. And then you see all the requirements that they have here. Block miles, what they have on the line, start time, end time, all things that are important in this. And then it had their highs and lows of temperatures. This is a very important thing to us when we're trying to help them evaluate. And we even pulled the graph for them when we were doing it of what their highest temperature was in 2018 down to their lowest temperature. And then we produced one of these sheets showing for them what it would look like on this chart. And then there's your 2 chargers. So that's your opportunity charging coming down, and then your depot charger. That's what one of them could look like. The depot chargers can look a lot. Some of them have a stand that's this big. That big unit sits up against a wall, and it's just the box that's sitting by the buses. And then that gives you a little bit. You asked about the fans right here. That's the rail system fans, your packs for sealing up your batteries. And then FTA, the only reason I threw this on there is if you guys aren't aware, FTA has what they call a low-no program. That's how a lot of these transit properties are going out for funding. Money. There's grants for them to move from diesel buses or CNG even to go to a zero-emission electric bus, and that funding's out there available for them. And that's it. I mean, this is a little bit just about, and then obviously myself, David Warren runs our Director of Sustainable Transportation, and then Mark Fisher is my boss now, and that Director of National Sales.
I also just wanted, we'll take a couple more questions, but before we finish, I also just want to compliment DJ and his fantastic support of MRIS and a couple things we've done in helping us out with buses. And like coming up in August, first part of August, there's the ACES conference in town. you know, and it only gets here like every 20 years to the Twin Cities. And he's kind enough to supply us a bus for taking people out on a solar tour, and then an evening out at a couple places, the Pollinator Bar kind of places. So anyway, I want to personally thank you for that.
You're welcome.
That's been good.
Thanks for taking the time.
We have a couple more questions, though.
Yeah.
Well,
How are you doing with fires from your electric batteries?
No zero so far.
Well, the Boeing 787 came out a few years ago, and usually the planes are just sealed except for the engines take in air. And they had some fires, and we really got worried. And so the solution, which I just laughed and laughed, I worked for the FAA at the time, was to put holes in the battery compartment. So if the batteries burn, the toxic fumes, you know, went out in the air and not into the passenger or pilot compartment.
Well, one advantage we have is nothing is being on the roof and being in the rear engine compartments. But so far, and we make sure that we try to have as many meetings within the transit to first responders. The transit properties are a big part of and then we also have, there's a fire suppression system on the bus. So if something happens, there's a system on the bus to put that fire out.
In the batteries, you mean, in the batteries. So, but you haven't had any? So why didn't they use your batteries?
I don't know. We'd have to talk to Xalt of why they're not using it. I don't know. So when you talk about fires on the Boeing.
Boeing had trouble with their 787 Dreamliner.
But Boeing's still running fuel, right? That's not 100% electric plane. So.
Oh, well, no, that's true.
Right. So they.
So if that fire ignited the fuel, that would be even more.
Exactly. So they have some more concerns there. I mean, any fire is a concern, of course, but there's a fire suppression system on all buses that we manufacture.
Two more questions. So you guys, you're first over there.
Mine was kind of related. Do fire departments have been dealing with oil and gas for 90 years. Do they have to be retrained? Because accidents are going to happen. A
Yes.
bus is going to catch fire. Are they ready for that?
They are. What we're noticing, the transit properties in them are working together when they bring them in. Now we'll help with anything that they ask us to assist with, but that falls really more on the transit property, and we're there to assist them. So the transit property should be talking with any of their safety on how to respond. You know, and right now one of the biggest one is CNG. If you're going CNG, responders need to know how to respond to CNG. You know, usually that's bigger where my fire questions come. But to be honest with you, I had a property in Michigan that had a CNG fire, and the one thing that held up out of everything, the bus basically melted down to the rims on the tires and down, was a CNG tank. Never touched. Yeah, it never touched, never blew up. No. Like, I think it's misnomers. We watch too many movies. We see things blowing up and shooting off. There's a lot of protection in there.
Got two questions left. One.
Maintenance costs. I have an electric vehicle, and I spend, other than replacing the windshield wiper blades, I have not had any maintenance costs. Do you factor that in your sales approach?
We do. So that's why we put up on that slide, there's about $125,000 savings. That's projected because we don't have a bus out there that's been out there 12 years yet. But we can project it off what we've done with the trolley buses that have been running for 50 years and know how low the maintenance has been on those. And brake life, right? Like, a lot of the properties are starting to switch to disc brakes. The regen helps with the brake life as well. Lower maintenance, less replacing them. So it's a huge factor for maintenance departments. But if you know anything about the transit world, the challenge you have is transit's union, drivers and shop. And shop likes, if they're 30-year-old guy or 30-year guys that have been there for 30 years, they don't like change.
Yeah.
So something new coming in, it's sometimes a battle to bring something in that's just something that we're going to have to work through. But sometimes at some of these shops, the guys, you know, they won't want a New Flyer bus from a Gillig if they've been running a Gillig for years, just because they don't want the change. So it's the same thing with a propulsion change as well. But some are very excited. I got to tell you, the Minneapolis Metro guys, a team of their 5 came out to our VIC center for training. The 5 that are running each of the shifts to work on those buses and run the team, phenomenal on how open they were to coming to this new propulsion. They were actually excited about it. They were happy to get them in. It creates a lot more work for them initially, but they were all excited to work on it.
Vision of the future.
Yeah, and that's where they're going.
One more. Are there many transit authorities around the country that are buying the Chinese-made buses that BYD and General?
It was hot and heavy to start. I don't know how much you've been. Are a lot of the properties buying the Chinese buses coming in? Here's what I'll say. There's a lot of technology change, or there's bus manufacturers and there's battery manufacturers, and some of these guys are battery manufacturers that are throwing stuff on buses, trying to get into that world to prove their batteries so that they can bring automotive and truck and all those types of things in. And there's some that are just bus manufacturers that are developing another propulsion. BYD has had some challenges. The best thing, I would never poo-poo my competitors because they all have good things that do, and I come from a world where I used to supply these guys. So before I was New Flyer, all those guys, my competitors, were my customers. I have good friends in all of them. All I'd say is there's enough articles and stuff out there on all of us that you can read up of what's been happening. New York, a positive experience for us. LA, a positive experience. BYD has had some challenges at some properties already. And some of it is we err, and Doug knows this from being out, we are always going to err on the cautious side for us. So when we tell you 120 miles, or people get on and we'll be on this bus and everybody's going to ask me, how far can this go? And I always tell them the conservative number, and New Flyer always tells a conservative number. Because if our bus outperforms when they get it, that's what we want. But what we don't want is to tell them 200 miles and the bus only run 150 miles a day. I can't fix that. If I tell them 150 miles and it runs 220, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to have a customer complaining if that's happening. And so far that's been our experience for most of our customers.
I'm going to go back to John's question just quickly. Personal experience, I used to buy about $10 or $12 million worth of equipment for Xcel every year. And the thing with the maintenance people and not wanting to change, I mean, it can get to the point where if they want to prove that it doesn't work, it won't work. I'll guarantee you. So it can get pretty sticky there. Well, anyway, thank you, JJ.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you.